One, two, three. Hit it. Outrun.
Welcome back to the Next Level Sega fans. Dan the Mega Driver here with a brand new Sega fan game, which is actually a brand new Outrun game from coder Skids. Turbo Outrun Reimagined is more than a modern take on a Sega arcade classic. It's a love letter not only to the source material but to superscalers of the 90s and to Sega in general. But what is Turbo Outrun? To answer this, we have to go back to 1989. Following the monumental success of the original Outrun, which landed in 1986 as an upgrade kit for the original Outrun arcade board, Turbo updated the visuals, added a competing car, police chases and, as the name implies, a turbo boost. It also changed the stage design and music. This is certainly a more brash experience than the relatively serene and cool original, with the sort of braggadocious feel that you'd expect from a game from the late 80s era rather than the mid 80s. It was a commercial success, albeit not to the extent that the original Outrun was. Worse still, the Mega Drive port was the only version on Sega home hardware, and it's extremely anemic by comparison. Having been bafflingly handled by the infamous software bunglers Tiertex, it's in a sorry state. But thanks to Skids, we now have a brand new version of Turbo Outrun for us to get our itchy Sega fingers on. Reimagined is built in Unity and uses modern technology to create ultra smooth scaling at 60 frames per second and at high resolutions. Texture work is clean and clear for the most part, though many cars and assets understandably retain those lovely retro pixels and it all works beautifully together. Comparing this against the two official Sega versions, the upgrades are obvious. Image quality in the Reimagining is crisp and clear and looks wonderfully fluid in motion. Everything looks so sharp by comparison to the other two versions. That said, for reasons we'll get into, a direct comparison isn't entirely possible here, but it's great looking at all three versions at once. The new version certainly doesn't look as busy as the arcade original, which does hold its own, especially in the opening New York setting, which feels more like a claustrophobic metropolis than the wide open roads of the Reimagining, but it's more of a difference in style than quality. It's certainly a stark improvement over the subpar Mega Drive port that is also pictured here. That said, the arcade and Reimagining assets are pretty much identical, and that really helps with the look and the feel of the game. This is Turbo Outrun, even if it sort of isn't. What do I mean by that? Well, this isn't a remake or a remaster. As the name says, it's a reimagining. As such, almost everything here is near enough new, from the track layouts to the vehicle selection. Vehicle selection? Yes indeed. Unlike the original arcade game, which gave you a Ferrari F40 to burn through the US in, Reimagined gives you a choice between the ZF40, a Ferrari Testarossa, and a Lamborghini Countach. This is superb, not just for the extra variety the cars provide, but for nostalgia too. The Testarossa needs no introduction from the original Outrun, but the Countach is another 80s sports icon, and its sprite here seems to be borrowed from, or at least inspired by, the very same car in Chase HQ. Booting the game up, the love for Sega is immediately apparent, and it gives a hint of all the Easter eggs that we're likely to find in this wonderful fan game. As we go into the settings, it's here that, amongst the sound and graphical options, the music from Outrun, Turbo Outrun, and Super Hang-On is selectable, and the default is using a mixture of them all. As we start the game proper, there are two modes of play. Original mode plays a lot like Outrun, but sees you race against a number of other cars against the clock. It's more of a straight racing series here, without the series' trademark route selection. The other mode is definitely the more traditional Outrun mode, which is currently a work in progress, but so far I've found it to be absolutely fantastic. Once you start playing, the game really captures that Outrun feel that is so important. It plays pretty much spot on with an Xbox controller as you dodge traffic to beat the clock. There are some quality of life improvements, such as when you crash or hit an obstacle, the impact and recovery time is much more forgiving. This might annoy purists a little, but for casual players, or for those that are just a bit rubbish, like me, it makes bumping through the stages that much easier. In original mode, your progress is tracked by this wonderful Super Hang-On style bar in the top left. And that isn't the only thing to come from Yu Suzuki's classic motorcycle sequel. The various bikes from that game appear as traffic, and, as previously mentioned, you even hear some of the tunes from its killer soundtrack too. There's even a stage where you race the iconic motorcycle and rider from that very game. Super Hang-On isn't the only Sega franchise to get a nod though. There are Easter eggs in abundance, from the stage which is themed on the Spring Yard Zone from the original Sonic the Hedgehog that even uses the same assets from the game, to the shop theme from Fantasy Zone which plays when you visit the upgrade shop. This game just oozes Sega passion and charm. This is just an alpha though, and only version 0.3.7c. As such, it's not even the final game. I did have a couple of nitpicks, such as the turbo indicator not being as clear and obvious as it is in the original game, and I'd love for you to be able to choose your music via the radio as you could in the original Outrun game. But those really are just minor nitpicks because this is already an absolutely amazing project. Currently you can play this on PC or via the web browser. I downloaded this to my desktop to capture and it runs absolutely beautifully on there. Full details on how to download the game, install and play it can be found in the link in the description below. And downloading lets you chuck the creator a few quid for their amazing efforts. You can be rest assured that the Sega guys will be following this one very closely. That's all for now though. Make sure you check out Turbo Outrun Reimagined, and until next time, we will see you on the Sega side.